Now we're going to go through some basics of heads up strategy. Fortunately, if you make it to heads up in any tournament, you will be guaranteed to be getting some tokens and to be getting some rank up, but it is more fun when you win. So let's look at some basics of heads up strategy. And for these, again, I just grabbed a couple of charts from pokercoaching.com. These are the 10 big blind charts for playing from the small blind. And on the next slide, we'll look at the big blind. So with these charts, red are the hands that are profitable to go all in with. Green are the hands that are profitable to call with. And in the second chart, green are the hands that are profitable to call an all in with. And blue are the hands that we would want to fold versus a big blind all in. So if we call and big blind goes all in with the hands they should, the chart on the right is what we would call they're all in with. So let's look at the chart quick. If for first act, we can go all in with any ace. We can go all in with almost any king for 10 big blinds. We can go all in with kind of most cards that have an 8 or better or a 9 or better. We can go all in with suited aces, suited kings, suited queens. And then we see again some of those balanced hands, the suited connectors and suited gappers and the pairs. The main thing I want to focus on here is that there's nothing wrong with just taking the green hands in the top left corner and treating them as red and going all in. If you just want to jam with any ace, any king, queen 8 and better, any jack 9 and better, any suited Broadway, suited 9, suited 8, any pair, that's going to be totally fine. And it's going to be totally profitable. And that's often what I would do, to be honest. The idea with this calling strategy is you limp in with some of your best hands so that your opponent is forced to see a flop with like king 5 off when you have king jack or 9-7 off when you have king 9, so you can kind of cooler them and trap them. Or that you can limp in with your best hands like aces or kings so that if your opponent thinks you're weak and they try to raise you out, you can then put the rest of the chips in and trap them with your best hands. But generally keeping it simple and just jamming the best hands is going to be totally fine. And then we look at the chart on the right, which is a much cleaner and clearer chart. And it shows that if you limp in and get put all in for 10 big blinds, you can call with any suited ace, call with the better half of the aces, call with the better broadways, any pair in the suited broadways. And if you compare the two charts, it's kind of like on the left, you're shoving any ace, and on the right, you're calling with the top half of aces. So overall, you're going to have the best hand more often than not. They're going in with almost any king, you're calling with the best kings. Things like that. And if you just stick with playing the best hands, the Broadway hands, the two face cards, the strong aces, strong suited aces, and the pairs, you're generally going to do fine. So playable hands, heads up, pairs, aces, face cards, suited cards, and connected cards. If we had less than 10 big blinds, we would shove with more hands than this. If we have more, we would shove with less. You play looser as you get shallower and tighter as you get deeper. But do remember to consider abilities, because having those abilities allows you to push more aggressively. And if your opponent has abilities saved and you don't, you need to play a bit more cautiously. Same as the consideration on the bubble. And that's the power of having abilities behind. If you have an extra healing potion and an extra get 100% of health back lost from losing a pot, you can play very aggressively. Because if you win the pot, game over. And if you lose the pot, you can heal and get back in the game. So ability is very important to consider heads up and throughout the game. Something I want to reiterate. So next we'll look at heads up basic strategy from the big blind. And this one looks a bit more complicated, but I'll just really simplify it. The chart shows blue is fold, green is call, pink is raise small, red is raise all in. And this is assuming that the small blind limped with the green hands here. So limping with almost everything. They're playing almost every hand. And versus that, what do we want to do? Want to go all in with any ace, go all in with any king, go all in with the pairs. And then we have some of these weaker ones again that are like, for balance or whatever. If I were going to adjust this chart, I would say if they limp in, go all in with any ace, suited or unsuited. Go all in with any pair. Go all in with the better kings. And stay away from these suited twos and these offsuit queens and these low suited connectors. I would instead just check with those, go all in with most of the stuff in pink, and maybe raise small the very best stuff. The thinking behind this is some of these hands are profitable to go all in with. But with our very best ones, like aces and kings, we don't want to lose our customer, so we raise smaller, hoping our opponent will call. If you want to play a strategy that's just going all in when you're 10 blinds and shallower, totally fine, totally going to work. These strategies are based on raising your very best hands that flop well and trying to build a pot with them, and with the weaker ones, just pushing opponents out. If we're in the big blind and we got jammed on, well, strategy's pretty simple. Again, we look at what they're going all in with, and we just kind of call with the best of it. Aces, decent kings, suited aces, suited kings, pairs, and face cards. Even if, you know, someone jams ace 2 and we call with jack 10 and we don't have the best hand, we're getting pot odds because we already have a blind out there and there's an ante. We have a decent percent chance to win, you know, like kind of 60-40 kind of thing, maybe even 55-45. Plus, if you're saving your abilities, you might be able to cast some spells that, you know, increase your chance of winning by 25, 50, 70% maybe. So general strategy is look at how wide they're going all in, call with the best hands. If someone's playing crazy, you can call more hands. If someone's playing really tight, then, you know, maybe fold as much as half of these hands and just call with the suited aces, ace 8 plus, 5s plus, suited broadways, and maybe offsuit king jack, queen jack. These are the baselines. You can play tighter than this if you think you have a tight opponent, and you can play looser than this if you have a lot of spells working in your favor that you can use to help you win post flop. So in terms of playable hands, it's really the hands that have the right price versus the opener's range. If they raise the minimum, we can play way more hands than if they went all in. Same as we saw with the short stack play, right? Versus a min raise, we can play all these green hands. But if they raise 3 times the big blinds or 5 times the big blind, most of these hands are getting folded. So it largely depends on the raise size that you're facing, the type of player up against, and finally, how many abilities you have behind and how good they are. The better they are, the more loosely you can play because your abilities can make up for your cards.